Hey, good morning. We are heading out for the weekly long run. Wow, I can't talk. Anyway, 20 miles at least. It is 13 degrees Fahrenheit. Good news is the wind chill is also 13 degrees Fahrenheit. So basically no wind. Sun's out. Other than the temperature, not a lot else that I could ask for. Let's get to it. Okay, we're about 4.5 miles in, down in downtown LaGrange now. It's not a tough run. The run's fine, but picking out the clothing for this type of weather is tough because it's probably about 14 degrees now, but we're in the direct sunlight, so it really warms you up. So I'm like in between, should I have put on this jacket? Should I have not put on the jacket? The face gets really hot with the buff on. With it off, it's a little chilly. Just kind of a in-between temperature. Anyway, back to the run. Hey, we are about 11 miles into the run. We're down in Hinsdale. Right now, we've made it all the way back down to Clarendon Hills before turning around, head back home. But I just broke the selfie stick. See, take a look. Here's the handle. The rest of it's just sitting here. So anyway, no more video on this run. Get a new selfie stick in the mail. But anyways, because of the broken stick, guess I'll just talk to you at home. See you there. Bye.
Hey everybody, what's up? Andy here. We're going to talk about the calendar to the Austin Marathon, and we'll also talk about today's run. So this is being recorded on Sunday, the 16th of January 2020, and Sunday, as you all know, is my long run day. It's also the day where I like to talk kind of the week that was, and where we are heading into whatever goal race that we're marching on towards. And right now, that is the Austin Full Marathon, which is February 20th, 2022. It's a new year, right? One of these days, I'll remember that right off the back. So anyways, pull up the phone. Today's run, 20.02 miles. Don't forget those 200s. Very, very important. Only 545 feet of elevation gain. So today's run, I basically, if you kind of know general vicinity where I'm at, the Salt Creek Trail, which is out in the western suburbs of the Chicagoland area, I get on kind of where like LaGrange Park and Westchester butt up against each other. And so today was from the house to just a little bit of the trail, because the trail is still quite like snow packed. And the problem is a lot of people like walk the trail and ride their bikes on it. So even though it's not icy, the snow is packed very densely, and it's really kind of similar to ice. So unless if you have like trail shoes with big studs, which I don't own any, or if you have like Yak Tracks or something like that, you're not gonna be able to get a lot of grip. And it really kind of works the legs to get any sort of pace, or even just like to stay upright on the trail right now. So anyways, just a little part of the trail that I went on. I actually used a neighborhood to circumvent a longer part, used a little part to get down into LaGrange Park, and then down into LaGrange, and then it's the BNSF Railway. Not that most of you will know what that is, but anyways, it's a commuter rail that leads to downtown Union Station. I just kind of run along that and all the way out to a place called Clarendon Hills and back. So obviously a very little bit over 10 miles out and 10 miles back. I probably actually ran more like 20.5 miles, but there was a spot where I got stuck waiting on a crossing, and so I paused my watch and I forgot to restart it until I was a little bit of the way down the path. I think I just butchered the syntax of that. Anyway, whatever. So fine run. The heart rate was fine. At least I say fine run from the metrics, but really today was one of those days that was just a bear, right? Like I put this on my Instagram if you follow me there. I put this on my Strava. Like, man, some days you just have runs where like it's just not fun, right? And today was one of those days, and I think it was one of those days for a multitude of reasons. But there's another running YouTuber just put out like a phenomenal video. You should all go watch it, about motivation versus momentum, and he just nails it. And today was one of those days that kind of reinforced this idea that like motivation is less important than momentum or habit or whatever you want to call it, right? Just inertia, right? Once something is going, right? What's that? It's like the second law of thermodynamics, like objects in motion tend to stay in motion unless acted upon by outside force. I don't know if it's the second or third or fifth, whatever. It's been a long time since I've been in a science class like that. But anyways, it's like, I'm sure I butchered that rule, physics rule too, but that general idea that objects in motion stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force, kind of look to my training in that way too, right? Like not every day do you wake up saying, I absolutely want to go run. Or not every day, a mile into your run, do you start to say like, this is amazing, like my motivation's at an all-time high to go do this, but it's the momentum of like step after step, mile after mile, day after day, week after week. And once you're just kind of going down that path, it's much easier to stay on that path. And today was one of those days, right? Like obviously I'm still a baby runner, distance runner by like any sort of metric, but I've been running basically nonstop for a little over 2 years now. And it's easier now than it was before. Not just because the running's easier, not because it's physically easier, but because the mental is there to keep it going. And today was one of those runs that kind of required that mental focus, fortitude, whatever you want to call it, to keep pushing forward. Now, why was today's run like that? I have a few ideas, and I'm not really sure, right? I think I'm not a kinesiology person by training. I'm not a physio or any of that sort of stuff. And physically, I didn't feel that bad. So it wasn't like my legs hurt. It wasn't like my feet hurt. It wasn't any of that sort of stuff. I think it's just a few things that just kind of all piled onto each other. One, I mentioned it in the running. Today was kind of like, it's a tough weather day, right? So it was 13 degrees Fahrenheit. I think it warmed up to like 15 by the time the run was done. And the rest of the day actually turned out to be pretty nice. It's like in the mid 30s here, which Chicago in January, that's like double thumbs up. But during my run, it was like 13 to like 15 degrees, I think. And that's a tough weather window because, there's no wind, and for most of the run, there wasn't really much wind. It kind of picked up as we went on. And if there's bright sun, like it was for most of the run, as you can see in the videos, like it's easy to overheat, right? So I went out with 2 layers on the bottom. The bottom felt mostly okay, but the top I had like a performance base layer, kind of like Under Armour. It wasn't my heaviest Under Armour, and then I had a thermal hoodie from Under Armour. And then that Nike, like, running jacket, light jacket on over the top, and really that last part is not really for any heat, it's just to break wind, and obviously there wasn't a lot of wind today. So I was going through like periods of like really overheating and then being in the shadow and then kind of getting cold and then overheating, and same thing with my hands. So I have like the convertible mittens gloves, I talked about this before, and I kind of went through that same cycle with the hands where I'd have the mittens over and my hands would get hot and I'd pull the mittens off and then my hands would get cold. And I also took, I took like hand warmers and stuck them inside the mitten portion. And so sometimes like my hands were like sweating because it was so hot. Because you're in the sun, you have the hand warmers on and the mitten like cover over, and then at times my hands were freezing. And it was just, it was like a big yo-yo back and forth, and that's tough. And the buff was hard because, you know, the buff, as you saw in the video, like takes up most of the face. But in the sun, when the rest of your body's overheating, like it makes that kind of uncomfortable. But you pull it down and then your face gets really cold and the buff freezes around your neck. So then you have to like hold it up and breathe on it for several seconds to get it to like be pliable again to put back over your face. And so just like all this tinkering with the gear and like regulating temperature, I just didn't get it right today. So that takes like mental energy during the run to like think about those things. Also, just from a physiological standpoint, my legs didn't hurt, but I think they were getting tired, right? And so, like I said, pretty new runner, all things considered. And prior to last week, you know, prior to this week, the 2nd, I don't know if you can see it, the 2nd to the 8th, I had only ever run 70 miles in a single week once before in my life. And that was like last year, just not even training for any race, just like it just, I kind of got in a groove and it felt good and I did it. But now I hit 70 miles this week, the 2nd to the 8th, and 75 miles the 9th through the 15th. And so I think just part of the fatigue is like the back-to-back highest mileage weeks ever in my life, just kind of wearing on the legs, right? And I know, like 70 to 75 miles is a solid number, right? It's nothing to scoff at. But it's also not like super huge, right? It's not 100. It's not 90, right? It's still kind of reasonable. But for me, it's a really big number at this point in time. And so to do 2 of those weeks back to back, and the training calls for 1 more of those weeks, you know, that was tough for me. And I think just the legs were kind of starting to wear down. They don't, not wear down like as in there's pain or muscle issues or knees hurt or any of that sort of stuff, just like a little fatigued, right? And so I think that was kind of a culmination of it. And then finally, as you saw in the video, so yesterday my wife and I did 10 miles, and it was basically the first 5 miles of the out and back that I did today. And those 5 miles were relatively speaking pretty clear, other than like that half mile on the trail where you're running over the packed down snow. So I thought to myself, okay, if these first 5 miles are pretty clear, all things considered, the next 5 miles will probably be okay because it's actually in like a denser part of the suburbs. Frankly, like a more affluent and nicer part of the suburbs. So I figured like their streets would be a lot cleaner than the first 5 of the out and back. But that ended up not being the case. There was like more snow, more ice, more like poor footing in the second half of the 10 mile out, right? Which was also the first half of the 10 miles back. And so I wasn't like mentally prepared for that, and it just kind of compounded. So you know, I have these like mental things going on of like the gear and yo-yoing and fidgeting around a lot with that, and there's more snow and ice than I expected, so it just didn't feel very good. But anyway, we got through it. But the other thing from the run, I talked about this, is so this is the Insta360 OneX2. It's a phenomenal camera. I've talked about it before on this channel. This is the proprietary selfie stick. Love this selfie stick. I think what happened, so you can see here it's broken, because normally this thing is like, it's like this long, and now it's broken. I think what happened is there's these little notches. I don't know if you can see them here, but there's a little pin that goes in these notches. And I think what happened is the pin froze. And I didn't realize it was frozen, because remember, this is aluminum. And the pin, I think, is plastic. So when I like pushed it back in, which I can't even get it back in now, I think the pin had frozen in place over the course of like about a minute of recording time, and that plastic froze, and when I pushed it back in, I think it broke the plastic off. So, excellent selfie stick. Note to self in the future, maybe not for this temperature, for that long, right? Because I was out there for quite a long time. Camera performed like a charm. Mentioned before, you can kind of hold the camera around the body to keep it warm, particularly if you have the heat warmers and the camera stays warm. If you hold it below the whole time, the camera gets too cold and its record time is greatly diminished. It starts shutting itself off after like 10 or 15 seconds because it's too cold. So just over the top, keep it going. Anyway, that was a long-winded thing about today's run. See, I can see the time right there. It's already 12 minutes. But anyways, that's where we were. Okay, so the week that were, it was a good week. Kind of the recap for this. So from the 9th to the 15th, so we had a 20-mile run. We had a good 8-mile workout. This ended up being an 8-mile workout with a 6-mile fartlek, which was pretty good. This workout here on the 13th, I was really, really pleased with that. 10 total miles, 8 at perceived marathon effort. And remember, if you didn't see the video, or if I didn't, maybe I didn't post a video, whatever. This day was pretty cold too. The 13th, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a cold day. It was after the snow, so there were like issues with the footing, more issues than there were today. But anyway, let's see, the 8 miles at perceived marathon effort were at 7 minutes and 6 seconds per mile. So for the temperature, for the gear that you have to wear, for the footing, I was incredibly pleased with that. And when I got back, the watch confirmed the perceived marathon effort that I've been going, because the heart rate was in the right appropriate range for what I was perceiving as marathon effort. So that's a really big like mental boost. So anyway, we have the rest of this week, the 16th through the 22nd. So that's one more week minus a day, right? But let's call it a week. The 23rd to the 29th, 2 weeks. The 30th through the 5th, right here, it's 3 weeks. 6th through the 12th, that's 4 weeks. 13th through the 19th, it's 5 weeks. And then the day after is the marathon. And we know that these 3 weeks, 13th to the 19th, 6th to the 12th, and the 31st, which is this Sunday, to the 5th, or sorry, the 30th to the 5th, those are taper days. So what that means is taper weeks. So as far as like full-fledged training weeks, we only have 1-2 weeks left. We have 2 more long runs, because I kick off the taper week with a long run. I count Sunday as the first day of the training week, which is the long run day. So we'll have 2 more 20-something milers. Maybe I'll just stick at 20. Maybe I'll go higher. I'm not really sure yet. But either way, we have 2 more 20 milers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, like all-out workout days. And then this Tuesday, Thursday of February, those are already into the taper workouts, so they're not quite as strenuous. And then after that, it's a full taper. So we only have really 4 more strong workouts, 2 more like full-on 20-mile long runs, and then we're into the taper. So not a lot of time left. And I feel like we're in pretty good progress. I sat down a little bit ago. I think I've showed my journal before. I don't have it right in the room with me, but set out to work on the fueling strategy. There's some calculations that you can do. I don't know if I'll walk through them, that kind of help you estimate like how many calories you're going to actively burn during a marathon. It's based off your weight in kilograms and versus your pace and how many kilometers you have to go. And so you can kind of plug all those things in and get a total calorie expenditure. And then you can try to plan out your calorie intake off of that. Minus, obviously, you know, you have glycogen stores in your body that you can draw from during the run to begin with. So calorie expenditure calculated, estimated expenditure, minus your estimated prior source gives you how many calories you're going to need during the run, and then you can plan accordingly, right? And then the second part of the nutritional planning, which is the part I didn't get right in Chicago, is the electrolyte balance, right? So hydration versus electrolytes, so particularly sodium and potassium. So I'm working on kind of thinking about how I do this better. But anyways, that's all I've got for today. I know this was really long-winded, but thanks for sticking with me. That's where we're at where we're going, and really kind of starting to get excited about it. I know a friend of mine who's running it, he, I think, is crushing his training times for his goal, which is amazing. I think I'm doing well on my training, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, it should be a really good time. Oh, my wife's crushing her training, like her half marathon. I think it's tough because I don't know if she's planning on running with her friend packed or whatever, but she's doing great too. So I think if she were to set out solo, I think she could set a PR for herself. But anyway, that's long story short. Last thing on today's video, congratulations to Sarah Hall and Chiara D'Amato. Probably butchered that name, but they set American records today at the Houston Marathon. So if you don't know, this morning the Houston Marathon was ran. You can find the live stream on YouTube. You can rewatch it. But the women's United States record, American records in both the half marathon and the marathon were reset today. So congratulations to them. Hopefully I can set my own PR in about 5 weeks. But anyway, thank you so much. If you enjoy the channel, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. Leave a comment down below and hit that notification bell. You can leave a thumbs up if you'd like to, but whatever. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Andy Hahn, signing out. Bye.